Hello everyone. My name is Andrei. I'm a tech lead from DoubleCloud. I'm responsible for transfer service, but today we'll discuss a more general approach about data analytics for product development, especially in the focus of educational startups. And today our co-host here is Sergey. Sergey, hello. Introduce yourself.
Hi.
Let's then start it. Let's start from the very beginning. I would say that we want to discuss today what actual contribution can be made by data analytics and data in general for modern EdTech startups. And I think you have some expertise here. Can you please say us in what ways does data analytics contribute in development for in EdTech startups?
So, I want to say that our EdTech company is not just a regular one. It differs a bit, and for us, data analytics is a struggle because we sell our education materials not in form of app or web app, but we sell a box subscription with some additions in mobile apps. So a customer who joins our subscription, he goes to the website and subscribes to the monthly delivery of physical boxes with science experiments to play with kids. So for us, it's really important to measure how many customers did we get every month and what retention of consequent monthly billing for the subscription happened for this particular customer. So we measure number of new users to measure CAC, and we measure retention rate for each cohort. And for both of these data pieces, both for number of new users and for retention rates, we struggled a lot to get accurate data. So we started just on the marketing side, we started with just using data from advertising platforms without any internal analytics, just to understand how many customers we get, plus Google Analytics data. And for retention rates, we needed to develop our own system. And we just started with writing SQL queries and visualizing them as a data to the Metabase. And that was a struggle because with every change of the subscription model, we needed to rewrite every SQL request. And just after a few years, we proceeded to implementing proper data warehouse. And it was also a lot of work from the beginning of the project until it works properly and data was reliable. It was about 1 year. It's much longer than we expected. And after half a year after the start of the project, it started giving reliable data, but with a lot of mistakes. And next half a year we spent to fix those bugs. So only after that we visualized correct data to the Tableau, so we see both number of users and we can visualize the retention rates.
Okay,
that's how it works for us.
Okay, as I heard, you more like on the age between the Oh, continue.
Sorry, there was some problem. Connection maybe on my side.
I think some luck here. So let's continue.
So we taking into account all the struggle we've had as e-commerce / tech company with implementing our approach to data analytics. I thought maybe your company can provide some shortcuts for other tech and e-commerce players to make their life easier, so they don't struggle as we did in this step-by-step approach to data analytics. So what can you do as a company to help, I don't know, write SQL queries or build a data warehouse or visualize the data? What your product can do here?
I would say that what we actually can give for our customers for that struggle with the same problem, because this problem is not unique one. It's, I would say, industry standard right now in nowadays, having struggles with your data, because it's a lot of different sources of information, that different signals in our own systems that we need to aggregate. And what we actually plan to actually provide for our customers, it's a toolkit for building the data warehouse. We don't provide the data warehouse out of the box, but we provide the tools that can help you to achieve the robust and reliable and scalable data warehouse on your own terms. And this is quite important, because we don't try to be a single platform for vendor locking. We build around open source tools, which means that in any case, you will able to move away from our platform to anywhere, any place in the world that provides same open source technologies. And what we try to build is a pillars for a future growth for customers. For example, we try to eliminate a pain in terms of maintenance of this technologies. First of all, if you try to build a data warehouse from scratch, usually you need to deal with a lot of generic technical problems, not like a business layer problems, but the technical ones. For example, like set up in a cluster, monitoring this cluster, set up in the pipelines of your uploads, workloads, replication, etc., and monitoring them. And around that, you need also to deal with security concerns, like how to set up it in a secure and reliable way, what exactly is, where exactly your data lives, and what in terms of security about the storing of this specific data. And this actually brings a lot of like frictions from business analytics that actually want to solve a business problem, like building your specific metrics for your specific business, and technical issues, because usually it's pretty much same people, data engineers or data analytics. It's usually it's same person who either spends their own cognitive effort on building an analytical workload or trying to solve a technical problems. And what we actually help with what we actually help, we help to build this analytics without thinking a lot about technology side. For data engineer, for data analytics, you simply set up a cluster, set up a pipeline, set up a dashboard, and then you just dig into the business layer details. And this business layer details is what help you focus on this business logic. It helps you to build that warehouse faster. And regarding to that, I want to question what about what is how on your current data stack you work with your major KPIs, and what is actually your major KPIs, what is the main number? Because usually if you talk about data analytics, you talk about one specific number or like set of them, which is like your main one, which you focus on. And what is your specific major KPIs, and how you calculate them on your existing data stacks?
So finally, we need to understand what is our LTV and CAC, number of users this month. So when you extract from LTV the CAC value, you get the future cash flow for one customer, and multiplying it by number of new customers joined this month, you understand how much margin you generated each month. So for a startup, it's really essential metrics to understand if you can be in the long term profitable, right? We call this fundamental profitability. So for us, a single metric does all the profit from this month's cohort cover today's fixed cost, all expenses for the team and rent and everything we have. So for us, it's really essential to get correct data for the LTV, which is in our case corresponds to the direct costs, it's just manufacturing costs, pricing, and the retention rates. So the retention rates is subject to deep dive to the data, because for every cohort of customers, you need to measure, like if you think that 1,000 customers arrived this month, it's 100% of the cohort. So the next month, it's just some of them churn, some of them cancel the subscription or ask a refund. All of these corner cases should be calculated properly. And some of them may resume, so your retention rate may rise in some period. So you measure the second month's retention rate. So you measure it by only the payment status, not by the status of subscription, because some cards can be not successful billed, but you need to measure your cash, right? Because you expect to get some revenues from these customers. So we measure all the retention rates on a cash basis. Do we get cash from this customer this month or not? All the other statuses and databases are just the secondary metrics.
So
retention rate,
like joining several data sources into a single metric, right?
Yeah, we just refer to the system which charges customers. It may be Stripe, it may be Shopify, and understand whether these customers was successfully charged this month. And this is a ground truth data for us, because it's very hard to be mistaken in this data. Taking this data for cash based retention for the next months, we calculate expected lifetime for this cohort, because you understand the second month is 90%, the third month is 80. You compare this to the previous periods, understand the cohorts behaviors in a similar way, so you can estimate all the graph of retention rate for the next 18 months and understand how many purchases on average did a customer on a monthly basis. The same you do for annual tariffs, then you weight these tariffs versus the share of annual and monthly, and you get the LTV calculated. Later on, you need to measure how many customers joined, and it was really a struggle for us, because in the monthly reports, which we analyzed ourselves as management and which we sent to our shareholders, to our investors, there were 3 sources of data for new customers: from finance, from customer service, and from marketing. And it was often happening that those 3 numbers were completely different, and we've spent like hours and sometimes days to understand what's the difference there. And it's a really essential metric for the startup, how many new paying users you get every month. After you get new monthly users, new paying users, and you get correct projection for the retention rate for the new cohort, you're all done. And that's exactly all we need. All other metrics are just secondary.
Okay, I see. Getting back to the technology part, as far as I understand, there is like several systems and subsystems that at the end of the day aggregated at some sort of data warehouse. And what is your data warehouse and data stack for this data warehouse right now? If you are aware, can you briefly describe it without any details, like just briefly, like what your current data warehouse looks like?
Yeah, I'm not a technical specialist, so I don't dive deep into the tech. On the basic level, what I understand that when we collected customers' data, it was a lot of small tables in the database. So we needed to replicate all those data to the one big table to create a replica of our database in a proper way in one big table. So the requests to those database, to this big table, should be working much faster, because when you have a lot of small distributed tables, all the requests will be working for a lot of time. So this replication plus transformation of the database, it took a few months from a senior data analyst working full time to replicate this data. And later on, we connected this data to the Tableau, where we visualized it. And also we used to write some connectors to advertising platforms to understand also data which was provided by advertising platforms regarding number of customers, of new customers and attribution of each new customer to the potential to the particular advertising channel. So we need to understand it whether by UTM or by pixel. So we can go to the advertising platform to get this data. And later on, all those data regarding number of new customers is visualized in the Tableau and distributed by geography, by type of the subscription. We have several subjects in our subscriptions: chemistry, physics, it's engineering, medicine. So we need to understand where a customer joined, which product customer joined it, and which tariff, whether it's monthly or annual. We also visualize this. So geo, product, and tariff. Those are the main metrics. So in the table, our task for the data analyst would be to visualize the data so we can switch and show only annual or only France or only product chemistry, for example. And this segmentation is really important for startups because when you dive deep into this data, which has 3 dimensions, right? Like product, tariff, type of the subscription, and also the channel of acquisition. You can easily find there which dots of this data you have unprofitable user acquisition. So for example, affiliate marketing in France may be unprofitable and you need to turn it off. But if you have this proper segmentation, you just, it's not visual to you, you can't see it. That's why segmentation is really important.
Okay. As far as I heard, you have a lot of toolings, mostly I would say proprietary, like Tableau and handwritten connectors. Have you used in your data stack some open source tools, if you're aware?
I'm not aware of such usage of open source tools. Maybe we use some bits of code, but I can't be sure because I didn't dig into the code.
Okay.
I've set a business task to the data.
Okay, yeah, that's reasonable.
So I'm not deep into the technical details. I know that we've written most of the code for this data warehouse from scratch. That's why it was interesting for me to attend this seminar to understand how we can shortcut this, because
I understand.
And it was a struggle.
Yeah, I would say that in the modern world, there is like a lot of open source tool for people who try to build rather well-known stuff. For example, in open source world, there is a lot of already predefined connectors for most of the systems, like for PayPal, for Shopify, for Recurly. Most of them is already written, but it's actually hard to maintain them without being an expert in this specific technology. That's actually a big struggle. I would say that in most of companies, there is like a two-way for fixing this problem. I heard your problem that you have like, I would say a golden data, which is your actual money in actual selling partner. And this actual selling partner will give you this data only via API calls. So you need to fetch this data to your data warehouse, somehow merge it with your internal stuff, and then try to find discrepancies and fix them, for example. And in most modern world, fixing this, implementing this task, like there is a two-way. First way, I think you choose this one, is just read the code that actually goes to this API, actually read this data and store it somehow. Or other way is finding a right tool in the world of open source. It's actually possible to find this, but it's either require a lot of research, because there's a lot of tools for this. And second of all, there is a lot of expertise how to maintain and exploit this specific software, because usually it's a complicated software. I would say that here you can actually help with speed up development by not using an not writing your own connector, try to use an existing one, maybe going to some vendors like us to aggregate this information from your classical database for your API partners like Shopify, Loop, Recurly, and aggregate this into one data warehouse. It would be, I would say, shorten some costs, probably in development efforts. So you don't need to implement upfront tasks. You just start reading data and then start modeling your actual data warehouse, because usually writing a connector, it's like a month of work, maybe less, maybe more, but a rough guess here for most of the providers, which is quite simple, it's like months of engineering work, and these ones can be skipped because by using the existing one. Using existing one is also not the free one, because you need to like read the documentation, understand how it works, and start using it, and then gain some information about how it actually works. But it's faster than writing by your own in some cases, but not in all cases. Okay, I see that your data stack is quite interesting, but at the end of the day, it's still a very industry rounded. Like you mostly like an industry average data stack looks pretty much similar. But do you have any barriers for you and for your data stack to evolve further? Because I would say that most teams struggle not to build the initial data warehouse, but evolving it. Do you have any struggles with this for evolution for your data warehouse, for your data models, etc.?
I think one of the things which we can't solve is fraud users. For example, when you use affiliate marketing, some of the partners try to use, I don't know, it may be cookie phishing, cookie stuffing, it may be stolen cards, maybe anything to trick your affiliate system to get the affiliate payment without delivering actual customers to you. So that's why usually for the affiliate marketing channel, it is quite cheap to acquire new users, but the LTV of the users is really much lower. And when you just calculate your average LTV, and if the affiliate channel is a high percentage of your new cohort, you see like your business is losing part of this LTV. So you need to write a specific request which exclude the affiliate from overall mix of the channels, or you need to add every time a commentary to understand that this month, for example, in summer, usually we have a lot of affiliate traffic and its percentage is high. So the average LTV of the new cohort coming in summer is lower than in winter, for example, which is a high season for our business. That's a bit of a struggle because you don't understand every time whether you did something wrong, whether it's a problem in the product or it's a problem is user acquisition. So it's every time a problem to define whether your LTV is falling on some period due to seasonality or due to problems in particular channels, or really you have some problems with the usage of your product.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a very common struggle, especially with the fraud one, because everyone who try to sell something in the internet face this issue, and because fraud is a big problem. And like I think that my next question would be about the actual how the actual data analytics help you to increase your long-term value for your clients, how it's impactful for you specifically.
We do a lot of A/B testing, and we do time tests for pricing in the United States. For example, last year when we've seen some drop in demand, we've did some like counterintuitive decision to raise prices just to grow our margin. We've seen that the volumes were not as high as we expected. So we decided to raise prices to extract more margin from those cohort customers which are not price sensitive. And we did it with time testing of prices around the United States. So we split our user acquisition into two parts of 25 states in each part. And we set a price, like lower price to the first half of the states, higher price to the second half of the states, and run this test for a week or for a few days and then flip them. So you get the data equivalent to A/B testing in the end, but you don't have two different prices for one product in one state simultaneously, which is illegal. So after making this testing, we've seen that despite the volume drops with raising the price, the overall margin we extract from this cohort is higher. So we've saved the higher price, and we've did two types of these tests during last year, and both of them were successful. So we rolled out. We've lost quite a lot of new user acquisition, but the margin was so much higher. So we decided in this unstable times, we better save our position in more niche audience, which is not price sensitive, but we extract much more margin compared to what we did in 2021 when we targeted like mass market audience. And to that, of course, we need a proper data analytics because we need statistically significant data to prove that this test showed correct results.
Okay, I see. And my next question would be about the product development and what actual challenges or obstacles that you faced in implementation of actual products and data analytics, how these improvements work together. Is there any problems specifically? Is there any generic problems that you faced in terms of like evolving and implementing new features?
So our subscription contains different boxes. We have around 60 different boxes distributed around 5 subjects. So, and we really wanted to understand whether the churn rate of customers depending on which box this customer receives every month. But we are like hardware offline product, so it takes time after billing of customer when the box arrives to a customer. Maybe these customers have some boxes unused from the previous deliveries, and it was really hard for us to measure and predict how a particular box and its quality is influencing the churn rate of a customer cohort. And this task like seemed unsolvable for us. And the only thing we invented is we have a mobile app for our subscription users, and in mobile app we ask whether you like this box or not, and we make our product decisions based on customer reviews, not on actual customer behavior, because customer behavior and the usage of particular boxes is very much distributed around the time from a charge for this box and maybe for a few months further, so we can't measure actual churn rate after usage of the offline product.
Okay, I see the problem with the offline world touching the online world. It's like my last, I think, question about the your data stack. Is there any significant, I think, improvements or changes were involved in your data stack, data technology landscape in the past days? What are troubles would you was faced while introducing these new features for your data warehouse and for your data stack?
Last year, we've switched from our own checkout process to Shopify as an industry standard solution. And those two main challenges. First one, initially on the A/B test, our own checkout versus Shopify showed like 50% increase in conversion, statistically significant. But this increase in conversion never landed when we rolled out it to the full scale, right, to the full cohort. And so I think we all should be careful about A/B testing and successes we get there, because sometimes it's just a novelty for the customer, like this.
Okay, yes.
This effect of the novelty of the customer brings you more traffic, more conversions, and when you roll it out to the whole website, it goes back to the previous parameters. So be careful to your A/B test, and like divide by 2 or by 3 effect which you received in A/B test. Just expect that you get half of the defect in terms of your budget and your revenues in the future. And this one more challenge and change was that the Shopify, the industry standard solution, is designed for very simple subscriptions. And we, during our 8 years, being like two smart guys, invented many different specific things for our customers, so they can get a mix of different subscription. They can be annual or monthly or quarterly billing. So now we see some struggle with implementing some tools on the checkout side. For example, we can't upsell second subscription right after customer purchased the first one, which was a successful marketing experiment in previous. And also there is a problem sometimes with extracting the data after the Shopify checkout. This is the main changes we had during.
I see. So basically, you're just changing the main vendor for your golden data, and it's not like a smooth process, and sometimes it's a lot of struggle.
Yeah. By the way, I also heard that you helped some companies, for example, Practicum, to help to set up their data analytics. So how did it work? Could you tell more about that example, Practicum, which is very well known in tech space, and how did you help them to make it short, faster way to the proper analytics for high quality data which they received?
Sure. I would say that they have mostly same troubles that you had. The only difference there that it's not like it's more like online business than offline business. They still have some offline presence, but it's neglectable. And after all, it's more like about classical educational stuff. They have like courses. They sell some subscription for these courses, and each course have the attendees, and each attendees has fill some exams, tests, etc. And what they want to build is build reliable dashboard for both internal management and external stakeholders that show how the product evolves. And there was several important KPIs in evolved. First of all, of course, it's LTV, but it's calculated differently. I don't remember exact rules, but there was actually another interesting metric that they calculated. It's engagement metrics, how users are engaged in the platform, and it's depend on how often and how accurate they pass tests after the lessons, because usually like show some information about subject and then ask questions. How did you learn this subject? And this actually show an engagement and quality of a content. If people try to read try to pass an exam, this show a signal about engagement. They actually like to try it, and if they usually fails, then probably the specific lesson is either too hard or unclear somehow, or maybe test is too complicated and it's not everything is covered in the previous section. So this is actually very important stuff for them, for seeing how to improve the actual content on the platform. And they try to build such analytics and in a visual way. So they want to build a dashboard with dimensions on terms of subject, region, etc., and language. And all these subjects actually was tried to build initially by hand by writing some admin pages, and this admin pages was a big trouble to write. It's a lot of effort. They tried, they spent some time and failed because they have not enough resources. They always deprioritize these admin pages in favor of product features because they have a limited capacity of engineering. But they have some spare times of data analytics. They can build this dashboard in some other tools. So they come to us and try to build the very same dashboard that they plan to build on top of our managed service for charts, our Lens service. So they actually try to build the very same charts on top of the exist data in the actual OLTP database. They have like main website with several databases included, and they just connect to these databases and build the ideal dashboard for this goal. They spent, I would say, a couple of weeks for that. Just one data engineer. It was not actual engineers. It was more about data analytics and product analytics. They actually were able to build this without huge technical involvement with development team, because development team is kind of separated from analytics and product team. So they don't touch the development team, and they fix this problem. They start to sync this dashboard and start to actually use it quite often. And they was quite happy for some period of time. But after some period of time, they actually start noticing some degradation in performance of the actual production database, because they build dashboard on top of this production database and don't ask a development team like a permission for that. And development team was not happy because the query that actually designed for production workload, the database was tuned to be used by this production workload, and they use it for analytical workload. Analytical workload is a big different game here. You need to adjust both queries and set up, etc. It's very complicated stuff. So there was a two-way how to fix this. First way is by investing some development effort to tune a database for analytical workload, and they don't have such spare hands of developer to fix this. So they decided to go different way, just make a copy of this exist databases into a new analytical one. So they will be used only by dashboards, but not by users, not by actual production, but by dashboards. They come to us with they own exist database and replicate them via transfer tool into a new one. There's the very same Postgres database. They use Postgres for actual workload analytics and try to use the very same Postgres for analytics. That was a problem. So they make a copy of this Postgres and make analytics on a copy. This copy was replicated in real time from production. So all data was fresh, so they don't have anything like a drop of a quality of data once they move to the replica, because the data is essentially the same. And this was very good for them for quite a long time. I would say maybe a quarter or so. And then they start to improve the data warehouse, because they don't have actual data warehouse at the moment. They have just a copy of the exist databases, like a Postgres databases that used for analytics. And they want to build like more scalable in terms of evolving dashboards, because currently each time the product team introduce a new feature, it's actually somehow may broke a dashboard, which is not good for analytics, because analytics is not it's not a part of the same team as a product development. So product development like drop a table, but analytics uses table for some important metrics, and this actually brings them to need of separating the schema and a model of data analytics into a separate storage. So they try to using try to build a proper data warehouse, but they don't have an engineers for that. They have only data analytics that can they have a knowledge about their own data model and how to analyze them, but they don't have a technical skills for building such systems. So they just come and create a cluster inside of DoubleCloud for ClickHouse and set up several transfers from the exist PostgreSQL database to this ClickHouse, and they model data on top of this on top of this ClickHouse. They use a very well-known in the analytical world tool. I think it's called DBT. So they have like a lot of small tables from a PostgreSQL that was transferred into the ClickHouse via DoubleCloud. And then on top of this DoubleCloud ClickHouse, they just run the DBT model that data analytics can easily be modeled and create like a big flat table with all necessary data for fast and easy analytics. This actually was like several stages of onboarding the separate, like full analytical that data stack. The first iteration was quite simple, just create a dashboard on top of their own database. Second one, just move their own production database to a separate one. And third layer was like creating as a proper data warehouse with the modeling inside of it. So for them, it was quite helpful because the first initial results was gained very fast. The initial dashboard was created in a couple of weeks, in a matter of weeks, not in like months or even a years, and they will find the value from it immediately. Then they start just gradually improve it, and improvement was not so painful and not so costly because it's still be operating by same data analytics. So they not hire any new data engineers or software engineers for building this software. So this is how we actually help them. It's quite aligned with your story, but they choose a different approach. Instead of building like in-house connectors, they just come to exist open source one and try to use this one connectors and build on top of what we have.
Interesting. So you say that use open source data to help to make, as I understand the Yandex Practicum, they did the same task of replicating the database and that's making a flat table of it, and then some machine which I sorry don't understand what it does from a technical side, but it does something for a smaller analytics, right? So why can't companies just use the open source software you use to do the same, like without implementing your solution? What is the difference between your solution and just copying the open source code to do the similar task?
Yeah, basically that's the whole point. There is no difference. The only difference is that we already have a lot of maintenance expertise, how to actually maintain this open source software and try to minimize the friction with this open source. If user decide to take this open source on their behalf, they can do this without any troubles. Just the only problem that they will have to face is the maintenance of all this variety of tools, and maintenance usually come with a cost. You need a qualified people who can actually set up a cluster, who can set up and maintain a workflow for data pipelines, something that will schedule backups and restore all these backups automatically or manually or semi-manually. This question is still need to be answered, and usually company can go on this direction instead of trying to go to the cloud services. They can use their own managed service, like on-premise services on top of the classical AWS EC2 instances, like just create a couple of virtual machines and install necessary software there. But this will require another effort. Usually it's engineering work. That engineering work require here for setuping, maintaining, backupping, and everything that is essential for building a reliable data stack. And here our value is, it's from one perspective, we don't try to build to push customers for vendor locking because we're using open source tools. From the other hand, we help them to forget about the all complexity that comes usually with the open source, especially in maintenance, and just using it instead of maintaining it. And this remove need of SRE or system administrator for these systems.
So as I understand, your software just replaces the data engineer and system administrator when you implement this open source code to replicate the database and to make a smoother analytics with a flat tables instead of a lot of small tables which run
Yeah,
very long.
kind of like this. Yeah, we usually at some point of company usually still need some engineering here, but it's still a lot less than defined. I would say we have customers with a dozen of ClickHouse clusters with which usually require for you like a team of engineering who support them. Instead of that they have like one data engineer that is actually more focused on the data analytics rather than exploiting all this stuff. And all of this stuff is just works. And for them, it's not require any like focus on it. It just works.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of things around the data engineering, so you can help companies to offload the costs for the people who work on that and to make this like out of the box solution or close to the out of the box solution to get the data. But when coming to analyzing the data, sometimes people also miss like some discrepancies, some difference in data, like year over year, months over months. There's a lot of things changing in business every time, and if you miss it and don't get your attention, because as a managing the business, I have like dashboards and tables and reports with hundreds of numbers every month, right? So it's really challenging to pay attention to every number. And I've made expensive mistakes in my career when just not paying enough attention to the numbers. So I would dream about some like assistant who could be as good as I is understanding what those data are and what and making really simple requests like comparing data year over year, months over months by product and everything. So maybe in future we could use AI, Chatgpt, or tools like that to replace not only data engineering but also data analytics and some like business analytics with Chatgpt. Is that possible, or are we on track to that? Maybe
I would say replacing the human here at all, it's not possible. But what we actually can gain here, it's improve the productivity of a person like a lot. We actually previously experimenting a lot and recently released a nice feature which is called Chatgpt assistance for our Lens dashboards and chats. And these chats actually is quite interesting stuff. You can simply ask a summary or some questions on top of your chat, and this will bring Chatgpt in a full power. This will answer you for some question like what exactly happens here. If you don't want to spend your time on efforts to understand this specific chat, the Chatgpt will do it for you. And this not replace you as a person in analyzing this stuff, but what it gives for you, it's more power and more ability for aggregate stuff, because you don't need to dig into small details. The Chatgpt will do it for you. This, I think, is nowadays a very trend in any data analytics. I would say in any software engineering at all, and I would say also in all stuff around the managing and any business is applicable with AI stuff. Everyone talking about it, and it's not because it's just a hype. It's actually can give a value for business. And what we try to give here is like using this Chatgpt and this AI way for and combining with our tools like open source tools like chats, etc., with by giving an extra value, and this extra value is a good. The only problem with the Chatgpt and any other such assistants mostly comes from a legal perspective and from security perspective, because usually a Chatgpt or any AI model requires some big data sets for learning how to analyze this stuff. And what recently allow us to implement this feature is a new policy from a Chatgpt, which is say that we don't which is forbiddenly encapsulate on isolate data that we send for this Chatgpt via our own sandbox. So we don't share your data with anyone else. It's only for you. And another interesting.
Does it work like that? That Chatgpt uses all the information it has to work on your data, but it doesn't share your data to the outer world.
Yes,
right?
exactly. They take everything from the world that's accessible for them for making some brains from brain cell working, but analyzing this stuff, it's only for you. It will not give this information for further evolving of a AI model.
I would love to give the information if I could have insights like, box subscription like yours usually have 3rd-month retention rate 5% higher. If this data is anonymized and used for the similar companies to get their insights, because it's so much struggle to get benchmarks from other vendors, right? Because
like comparing with the other one.
Oh, it's a struggle because every time like marketers or product managers, they come with a question, what benchmarks should we use? And finding those benchmarks.
That's actually a common struggle. I would say that as far as I understand, ChatGPT only learn itself on a open world models, and they actually use some open world data sets for learning. And these data sets is quite okay. And that's why most of the time the advices from the ChatGPT, even without sharing your data sets with our world, it's still quite accurate because a lot of open data exist in our world. Yeah, for sure, your specific case would be not included, but mostly ChatGPT can relate this form factor to some other form factors that is shared to everyone. This actually give me some hope that in the future everyone will work a lot more effective. I would say the ChatGPT and any other AI tool like this can improve productivity of the regular person the very same way as at some point of time Google does, because what Google does for people, it's actually replacing the knowledge of encyclopedia style knowledge with a very handy tool to gain some information. The very same is a ChatGPT here, but the ChatGPT also answer it in a more friendly way. You don't need to ask a specific question in the right form, just generic one, and he will understand you as any human being. It's like a very smart guy in the room who can help you with advice.
Yeah, thank you. It's really interesting and inspiring perspective in terms of data analytics, because diving for hours and a lot of numbers in Excel, challenging exercise. You will get tired of it.
Yeah, I think we ran out of questions, so we can wrap it up. Thank you for participation. Your case was very interesting. It's very refreshing to see how the world operate and how the modern tech startup works, because usually modern tech startups is not about tech itself, it's more about how to connect the real world with the tech world, with the internet world, online world, and everything is well communicated, and how to deal with this problem of online offline. And this was very interesting discussion. Thank you for participation.
Thank you very much for your invitation and best wishes to your service.
Thank you. Bye-bye.